I'm on a journey to get better, and I want to do it with you. And I'm not just focusing on physical health. I'm focusing on everything: emotional wellness, spirituality, finances, relationships, and so much more. Every week, it will be my personal goal to bring us, the world's leading healers, experts, and game changers, to share groundbreaking secrets and tips to getting better in all areas of life. Getting better isn't easy, but it's a whole lot easier when we can do it together. Welcome to Better Together with me, Maria Menounos. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Better Together. It is a whole lot easier when we can do it together.
Way easier.
Way easier. And when you know better, you get better, guys. And that's why we're here. We are bringing in all of our friends, all of our experts to help us through this very difficult time. Our quote of the day on this Tuesday, March 31st. Hey, here's some good news. March is over today.
Oh, and then April 1st tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Peace out, March. Okay, our quote of the day: anyone can love something because that's as easy as putting a penny in your pocket. But to love something despite, to know the flaws and love them too, that is rare and pure and perfect. And that is Patrick Rothfuss from The Wise Man's Fear. I like that.
Ooh.
To love something despite.
It's flaws.
I love you despite your flaws, Stephen.
I have flaws?
No.
Thank you. I for a second, I
was
thought
just
you were
saying it to like relate, you know.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
I definitely love Kevin despite his flaws. I love Kevin. He's so sweet. This morning, he was getting a little bitchy last night because I gave him the Whole Foods like grocery list. And, you know, I was like, can you get this and can you get that? And then I categorized everything for him, right? Fresh produce and fruit, dairy, you know, packaged goods, like I made it so friggin' easy for him and he got so cranky.
Did you like put it where it is in the grocery store? I have a...
No, then I walked him through
Okay.
the walk. I said, you're going to start on the produce, then you're going to go over to the meat and fish, then you're going to go over to the dairy, then you're going to go right over to the package. There's only 2 things in packaged right now. And then you're going to go over by the cheeses, over by, you know, where they have the wine, and then you're going to be done. You're going to grab some dark chocolate with salt, and then I'm going to be over, and it's done.
So you turned grocery shopping into like a Mission Impossible thing and expected him to not get frustrated.
Yeah, he got a little cranky. But you know why I love Kevin and Laura? Dr. Laura Berman is our guest today. She's going to help us in a very specific area today because quarantine is an interesting time for people, especially in relationships. And, you know, we're now with our partners 24/7. So it is very, very challenging for some people. And then in some, you know, obviously more serious cases, very challenging. And I've been reading about that, but we'll stick to the middle challenge. And so this morning, what I love about him is he woke up and he apologized. He's like, I'm so sorry. Why was I such a bitch last night? And I was like, oh, thanks, honey. And I was like, I had already forgotten because I love him despite his moments, because he has to love me despite my bitchy moments. And so I woke up, he's like, I have to say, I'm really sorry. And I'm like, for what? Like, I got one eye open. The other one's like, you know, half asleep. And he's like, I was such a bitch last night. And I'm like, you're amazing. I just love somebody who has the power to apologize. And so it was really special.
It's big dick energy to apologize for being a bitch.
Yes. I'm not as good at apologizing, to be honest. But anyhow, he is really good at apologizing. So that was really nice. I will say I have a bunch of things that I want to go over with you guys today because, you know, there's a lot of questions and I'm searching for where I'm bumping my head so I can create moments on this show with people that I know and trust and love to help us. And I saw something on Twitter yesterday about loving on a family member during chemo and how difficult it is. And so, you know, this family was having a hard time because their mom had cancer and they were struggling with the notion that they can't hug her. And I related so much to that because it's been probably almost a month since I've hugged my mom, because I was already ahead of all of this because I saw what was coming and I was already, you know, putting things into practice and preparing. And so I just think, I think it's really really difficult. And, for us, my mom, oh gosh. So as an update, she is doing better tumor-wise. I mean, I think by our next MRI, we're going to see a completely clear MRI for the first time ever. Usually she had a little teeny something, and now that teeny something that's left is even teenier than before, and it just looks like necrosis, so we'll see. But, and I don't know, we did put her on a little antidepressant medication, very, very low dose, and I think that might be the culprit because in the last, let's say, 2 months, she's just so much more lethargic. And it hit me last night. And I was like, maybe it's that. So I'm going to talk to her doctor and experiment with maybe pulling it and seeing, because she was making forward progress. She was walking better. She was standing better. Now she can't really walk right. And she's fallen twice in the last 24 hours. And she's not listening, which has been something that has been a problem for us. Like, I always try to share the real where, yes, we're having amazing progress medically, but cognitively and physically, we are still challenged. And, my dad said, sit there. She was eating her breakfast the other day. He ran to the bathroom. By the time he came back, she was on the ground. And we're like, why did you get up? And she doesn't really understand what's happening. And so last night, she was on the couch, on the recliner, and my dad took the dog out to pee, which is literally 4 steps away from her. And in the interim, she got up and fell. And I don't know how she gets up so fast, because when she wants to get up, it takes like 20 minutes and like 5 people. But somehow she got up and fell. And I run from the backyard. My dad runs. And now we're trying to lift her. And he's trying to pull her by her hands. And he doesn't understand that's not the best way to do it. But he's panicked. And I had been taught by Vicky Vlakonis, our osteopath, how to lift somebody very easily. So I'm like, Dad, I got this. I got this. So I get down. I'm like, Mom, put your arm around my shoulder. And I'm about to try to roll her up. It's like a bucket of cement. I couldn't do it. And so then I switched to my dad grabbing her from under her arms and me pushing her butt. And I have no upper body strength, but like I'm using my knees, I'm using my hands, and we finally get her up. And then I'm so upset. And I'm yelling, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Because I know she knows to a degree. And then I have to figure out, well, how much does she know? How much does she not know? Which is so difficult when it's the brain, right? Because she could be totally cognitively with you. And maybe those are the moments where she's not. I don't know. And I also know that when she falls, she doesn't even feel anything. So her pain receptors are gone. But if I grab her arms, she screams. But when she falls, she doesn't hurt. It's so complex and so difficult to navigate. And so then I go to bed and I'm laying down, and now I have to worry about my dad's diabetes all night. So I don't sleep at night because now he's on this new pump and he's not trusting it. So in the middle of the night, his sugar will skyrocket and he'll give himself insulin and then it'll plummet. And if it plummets to certain places, he doesn't know what to do. And then at the same time, I see what he's dealing with struggles with my mom. And I'm like, is he going to give up? And I can't let him give up. And so I'm like, for the love of God, by day it's her, by night it's him. And I'm just like, I'm really tired. And I'm trying to keep everybody alive. And in the meantime, I'm like, I could be asymptomatic and have coronavirus. Who knows? Even though I'm in quarantine, Kevin's out shopping. He could be bringing it home. I'm not touching Kevin. We're 6 feet apart in the bed. Like, we're really trying to keep separate because he's the forager. And I have to be careful to not bring it to anybody or get it myself because I have asthma. So then I realized, oh my God, my mom was in my neck. My mom was touching me. My mom was hugging me. Oh my God, what if? And you start to panic and you're like, oh my Lord. And then I start reading about this family that's scared. And this daughter's like, sometimes I break the rules. And the mom's like, please just put on some clean clothes and lie down next to me. And her kids can't bear to not hug her. And there's a psychologist that was saying that distancing can be an act of care. And a lack of embrace is now an embrace. But how do you tell that to a brain tumor patient who doesn't understand? Every day she's asking us, so when are we going back to Connecticut? And, oh, can we go out today to this place? Or, can the groomer come do the dogs? Beethoven needs a haircut. And I'm like, Mom, nobody's working. Like, she doesn't fully get it. So I, I say this for anybody else who's struggling with things like this right now. And I do want you to know that a psychologist from Columbia University does suggest that you do still have to keep your distance, unfortunately. And it's for their own good because they're so immune compromised. And I definitely know that I, for one, miss my mom's hugs. And I miss everybody's hugs, by the way. I don't know, but when this is over, I'm going to hug any human that comes near me. I'm a big hugger. And if you know me, I have birthday parties. Any male that can handle my body weight, I literally dive onto them. I just get so excited to see people. I can't do that to everybody, but if you can handle me, I'm charging you. And I'm usually like a drink at least in, but I love hugs. Like that's like my favorite form of like, connecting. And so
Can I buy you a body pillow? Is that what you need through
I
this?
don't know. Thank God I have Max.
Oh, Max.
But then I'm scared. What if Max gets it from me? And I don't know. Like, what if I'm asymptomatic? I'm just terrified of all of this stuff. And so, like, I read this article about a choir that early in March decided to move forward with their choir practice. And they kept their distance and they all hand sanitized and they did all the right things. And now there's a tremendous spread of the virus and a few people have died. And so it's airborne. So you really can't even be in the same room as people. Like, thank God you're in that room and I'm in this room and we don't have contact. That's why I'm such a stickler about keeping the door shut and don't come in here and whatever, because we don't still fully know everything around this virus. So for the people who still need to know certain things about this, and preventing the spread, I printed out some things that you need to make sure you do. So, first of all, I wanted to know how to handle somebody at home if they end up with coronavirus. Like, what if Kevin gets it? What do I do? I can't not be there to help him. Kevin's a really good patient and good at taking care of himself. I would not be good at that. I would literally be the biggest baby if I got it and was suffering. I am sorry. I'm not perfect. I can't handle it. So you have to monitor the patient's symptoms. If they get sicker, obviously you have to call the hospital. Household members should stay in another room or be separated from the patient as much as possible. Household members should use a separate bedroom and bathroom if available. Prohibit visitors, obviously, who don't have an essential need to be in the home. Household members should care for any pets in the home. Do not handle pets or other animals while sick. And I think that's simply because we don't know if they can spread it. So be careful if someone in your house does have it, not to let the animals near them. Make sure that shared spaces in the home have good airflow, like an air conditioner or an open window. So we've been keeping our windows open in the house as much as possible so that fresh air can keep flowing in and out. Wash your hands frequently, of course, using hand sanitizer that contains 60 to 95% alcohol. And avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, which I know is impossible for all of us, but we're doing our best. Every time I touch my eyes, I go and wash my hands. My hands are literally going to burn off soon. The patient should wear a face mask when you're around other people. If the patient isn't able to wear a face mask because it's difficult to breathe, then you as the caregiver should wear a mask when you are in the same room as the patient. Wear a disposable face mask and gloves when you touch or have contact with the patient's stuff, whether it's saliva or mucus or vomit or whatever. Throw out disposable face masks and gloves after using them. Do not reuse. Avoid sharing household items with them. Obviously, don't use the same cup and stuff like that. Clean all high-touch surfaces such as counters, tabletops, doorknobs. I've been cleaning doorknobs like a psycho throughout the house and making sure that everything is clean, all the counters, all the surfaces. Wash laundry thoroughly. Immediately remove and wash clothes or bedding that have any kind of fluids on them. I know Kevin, when he comes home from foraging, he strips before he gets in the house, gets in the shower. All those clothes go right in the laundry machine. So, and then like today, I wiped down with Clorox wipes everything that came in from the supermarket. So you have to make sure that you're cleaning everything. And then kind of those are some just generic tips. The other unfortunate thing that I've been seeing is that, so many doctors and nurses are coming down with this. As we said, 2 weeks ago when we were raising money with Bethany Frankel for face masks, which I believe just went out today to Cedars and to UCLA here in Los Angeles, and she's been sending them all over the world. I mean, all over the country. The number of hospital workers in Massachusetts who've tested positive for coronavirus has surpassed 500, according to a Boston 25 News tally. So the data is being sent in by the healthcare facilities. They're self-reporting, and this is just
Yeah, a lot of well-known doctors and physicians are actually experiencing it, and some have passed away from it at this point.
yeah, it's unthinkable. I think it was the USS Roosevelt I was seeing today. The captain is like, Mayday, Mayday, like we need help. We've got coronavirus on this ship. And how scary to know that the people who are protecting us are compromised, and how scary for the globe to know that. I mean, I know
Yeah.
that everyone's kind of in the same boat right now, and hopefully that, isn't used against us, but
Well, you're not alone, Maria. A lot of people in the chat feel the same kind of anxiety that you're feeling. Teresa Duffy says that she can relate about your husband being the forager because she always gets anxiety about the health. And she's been nuts over all this whole coronavirus thing. She doesn't leave, but her boyfriend works and gets groceries when needed, and she has a 2-year-old, so they
yeah.
have high anxiety.
Yeah, it's scary. What I will say about Kevin is normally he disregards me as a little, crazy. He's actually really being careful, and I know he knows that we have to protect my parents, so much. But it's crazy. In the meantime, we do have an amazing guest that I want to get to. You guys, of course, know her because she is a New York Times bestselling author of 8 books. She's had her own show on OWN. She's a radio TV personality. She's been on Dr. Oz and so many shows. And she's the best when it comes to this area. So, Dr. Laura Berman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure. I'm so glad to see you
I
and
know.
to be with you, remotely see you.
I know. I miss you.
I miss you too.
Someday we'll be able to have lunch again in Venice
Yeah.
Beach.
And
And hug. I know. It's so ironic that you're on the show today, and just before I'm about to go live, I'm just, looking on Twitter, and I see that divorces are spiking in China due to the quarantine. And before this, they were at 30%. I figured they weren't where we were at, because I know culturally that's, not something that is as prevalent as it is here. I think we're probably at like 50 or more, right?
Depends on the state. In some states, it's 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
So very timely to be discussing this. And I thought about it, and, we're all used to kind of coming and going, and a lot of us are ships passing in the night.
Yep.
And when you are now stuck together, for better or for worse, problems are going to be amplified.
Mhm.
And as problems are amplified, I was like, wait, there's also an opportunity here. There's an
Right.
opportunity to thrive and figure it out so that when we are released into the world again, maybe we can be better for it. So I wanted to have you on so that you can help us through these challenging times and figure out how to make the most of this time with your partner and get better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an amazing opportunity. I mean, I tend to be an optimist by nature, which is serving me well right now. But, and I don't mean to diminish all of the threat and all of the fear, because that is very real. And of course, even without anxiety, even without the fear, which is going to make our most, difficult selves come forward, right? Like that's why, you had a cranky husband last night, right? That was his anxiety, right? Was causing the crankiness more than anything else. But even without anxiety, what you're saying is absolutely true. I'm seeing in so many couples, and they're calling my radio show and writing me, that now, where before you could kind of stick your head in the sand and not deal with stuff because you only saw each other at the end of the day and you were busy and blah, 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 now those things that you didn't really want to deal with are front and center in your face. And that's difficult, but it's also an amazing opportunity. I mean, my favorite acronym is an AFGE, another freaking growth experience. It's like, this is a big whopper
Yeah.
of, and you're absolutely right. If you, these are things that were here all along, but now we have an opportunity to work on and clear, and to really have some honest conversations with ourselves and with each other. And for many people who aren't seriously struggling financially, and I know a lot of people are, there's a huge proportion of people who are going to be okay financially through this. And even now that they aren't spending the money that they allotted to travel or to concerts or to events, invest that money in some couples therapy. Pretty much every therapist I know, myself included, is doing remote sessions right now. So if you're struggling and you can afford it because you're not spending that money in those other ways, invest it in your relationship if you're struggling. But the good news is that for many, many, many of us, this is an opportunity to take your relationship to new heights, to have some fun, to pursue some hobbies together, to explore new frontiers sexually. I mean, there's lots of opportunities here.
I think it's interesting, like when I look at Kevin and I, we're always together anyway,
Yeah.
right? So I don't feel a difference right now with him.
But you
Because
probably have more time, right? Because you can't do a lot of the stuff you were doing before.
yeah, it's filled up in other ways, right? Like I said, now I'm like 24/7, like dealing with my dad's
Taking, yes.
diabetes and trying to use this as an opportunity to point out to him where he's been going wrong for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
He's been doing a lot right to be here 50 years with it, but now I'm seeing his flaws, and I can point them out and keep, you know,
Yeah, that you can monitor it more effectively.
yeah, because my goal is when we come out of this, now he is able to be on his own without me fearing for him. I mean, I've spent 41 years of my life fearing losing him and having to be on top of him along with my mom to make sure that he's
That's a lot.
okay. Yeah. And so, I'm looking at every opportunity that this virus is giving us, along with, of course, the fear and the anxiety and the terror that we're all dealing with. But, but I think that, with relationships, it's got to be so tough for people because you're also taking on new roles, right? Like Kevin's a little cranky because he had to go to the supermarket. He doesn't like supermarket shopping. He likes going in and getting his one or two things he wants.
Right. That's not what he usually does.
Yeah. And so rules are changing in homes, husbands are having to do different things that are more domestic than they had to before.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that? How do you get through these new roles? And I guess, how would you assign the new roles so that you don't have issue?
Yeah, because what's happening, for instance, is that a lot of stay-at-home moms or moms who were working outside the home, but still took care of most of the child care after, which we usually do, for instance. Now that they're all home together and the male, isn't working, he isn't picking up the slack with the kids either,
Well, Kevin's friends keep telling their wives, take care of this, handle them.
Yeah. Right. So you have to just you have to sit down. And I like to encourage couples to have a couple meeting first and then a family meeting if your kids are old enough. And you make a list of everything that needs to be done, during this time on a daily basis with the kids around the house, whatever. And you say, look, neither one of us are working, if indeed you're not. Neither one of us are working right now. Both of us are in this together. We need to rejigger. We can't just apply the old rules and roles to this situation because this is a brand new situation. And this is one of those times that can bring you closer as a couple where you really see what you're made of, or really pull you apart where you're feeling really isolated from each other. And so I think having that meeting first and then engaging the kids is really important. Like, my kids have always been slobs, and I gave up the goose on that a long time ago because I would just have someone come in to help clean, or, I would just leave their rooms a mess. Now that we're all in this situation, they're having to do more housework. right? And they're also being forced to spend more time with me because they're not teenagers and they're not able to run out with their friends. So, we're playing croquet in the backyard and baking, and I'm getting all sorts of quality time with them. But that's a totally different, it's a totally different reality than what
Yeah.
it was 3 weeks ago. So making, and also keeping to a schedule. I think a lot of people, and I've heard from a lot of women, especially, who are in relationships with men, oh, now I can get that honey-do list going,
Oh my God, Kevin
Yeah,
hates the honey-do list.
I know. And so you have to not make it so miserable. I like to say, okay, choose one thing, every couple of weeks on the honey-do list. Both of you help with them. Choose one project or hobby or activity that you both would really like, that would be fun, and do that ideally once a day or once every couple of days. And make sure that each of you get covered solo time. So if you do have kids or aging parents or whoever that needs watching, each of you get alone time by yourselves, because
Ooh.
that's really important too. For all of us, I don't care if you're used to being together or not, you need that solo time to recharge and still have your dates. You can have a luau on your back porch. You can Netflix and chill. You can watch a concert online. You don't have to leave your house necessarily to have your date. And I think engaging the kids, if they're old enough, and giving you that private time as part of the schedule. They have their school time if they're in school, they have their recess, they have a fun project where they get your full attention. And then this hour is mommy and daddy playtime. And unless the house is burning down or someone is dying, assuming you're able, you're not a toddler.
Yeah.
you're watching a cartoon during this time.
I love that. I love that you're able to keep your teens in, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was talking to my best friend back home last night, and she works in the airlines, and she said that one of her colleagues was frustrated and their kids will not stay home. They're 18. She's like, I can't control them.
Well, mine are
And
still minors, so I have that on them.
yeah, but
The young
if
adults, or the 18-year-olds, are legal adults. I mean, if you're supporting them, it doesn't matter. You say to them, look, I am supporting you, whether you're 18, 21, whatever, and you follow the rules of my house. And if you go out right now, then you're not coming back in, and
how do you enforce that, Dr. Laura? Because I said the same thing. I said you should advise her to tell them, if you go out, you're not coming back. But how do you, as a parent, leave your kid out in this war?
I do not know, right? Like, that's a really hard call. Or, you make them sleep out, you set up a tent for them, on the back porch or the backyard, and they have to stay there, or whatever it is. You make it really uncomfortable with them. I think it depends on each person's. I mean, I'm hearing this from parents all over the place, and it's not just the 18-year-olds and up. I am so pissed off at all the parents of my kids' friends
Mm-hmm.
who are still letting them, oh, they don't have school. Okay. We're all clear. We haven't been anywhere other than the grocery store and everywhere else over the past couple of weeks.
That's super contaminated.
let's have all the kids hang out together. And then my kids are like, Mom, everybody's hanging out together. Like, why can't you talk to their parents? Why can't they come here? And I'm like, those people should be ashamed of themselves. They are putting the world and the people at risk by doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's really a decision point that I can't say for these parents. Like, I know what I would do, and I'm lucky enough to have a little postage stamp of a backyard, and I would be locking the doors I would be warning my kids and putting the chain lock on so they couldn't get back in, and putting a tent out where they could sleep for the next 2 weeks if they go out, and make perfectly clear that that's what's going to happen if they do this. Now, that's the kind of parent I am, right? And I don't bluff easily. I don't bluff, but I don't make threats easily. And if I make it, I mean it. But I can see how, depending on your level of codependence or fear right now, that would be even scarier.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because also it's like, okay, Amazon's on strike. Where am I getting the tent? In fact, another colleague, I'm going to bring up our entire conversation now. Another colleague was like, I'm going to go to Target. And she's like, why? And she's like, because I'm just going to look around. And she's like,
Yeah.
what don't you understand about what's going on? And she's like, well, I'm fine and I'm bored. I just want to go look around. I'm like, oh my Lord, this is why it's going to take us till September probably. Like, what are we
Because
doing?
people aren't, I try to make clear to my kids that it's not about us. I mean, granted, their dad has hypertension and is considered at risk, and I have used that card for sure. But it's not about us. It is about being a responsible member of the world and of our community and protecting the people who are not going to be okay if we don't flatten the curve and if we don't toe the line right now. And, at least in my case, because they know I don't bluff, they've listened. But I think just like relationship issues are coming up with our partners during this time, relationship issues with our kids are coming up during this time. And we want to focus with both partners and kids using those techniques of positive psychology as much as possible, the carrot rather than the stick. So I always say to parents, the way that you make a timeout for younger kids effective is by making the time in really good, right? If you never spend time and have fun and engage with your kids and then you give them a timeout, they're not missing out much, right? But if the time in is really good, if when you do this homework, we're going to have a crazy dance party or make ice cream sundaes or whatever, you're using the carrot, you're using positive reinforcement versus threats, which in this situation is really, hard to fulfill many of those threats.
Well, it's also hard to get young kids to understand the severity of things, right? They don't have bills, they don't have any stressors like that. And so I wonder if you're in that situation with your partner. Like I said, I'm really grateful that Kevin is taking it as seriously as he is. They all laughed at me when I was preparing, like weeks before everybody else. They were laughing at me. I go, guys, we're going to be quarantined. This is going to get real. They were like, Marty, are you crazy?
The stock market's going to crash. I mean, I was telling him all of that. And now, I'm like, see, when I tell you something is going to happen, you got to believe me. That's one beautiful thing that's coming out of this.
Yeah. So I'm lucky where he is abiding by my, really keep your distance and really be clean and really be thorough. But, there are people who aren't buying this whole thing. And there are people who think it's political. I mean, there's a million other explanations for what's going on in some people's minds. And so how do you deal with a spouse or a partner that is being negligent at this time and putting you at risk? And this is somebody you love.
Yeah.
What do you do?
It's a tough call. I mean, you can not let them in, you can sleep in another room, but the main thing is that if you have children in the house, you got to use that, right? Like we have to be a model for them. We have to protect them. I think that's for women, especially, that's really where we go. I'm not really worried about myself getting this, right? I mean, I don't want to get it, but the reason I'm worried about getting it is because of all the people I'll infect potentially if I do, and so that's, we tend to be more outward directed in that way, and because we're sort of born into this role and cultivated caretakers. But sometimes our partners need real help understanding the impact and using the science and showing them the data. I've done all of that. And, thankfully my husband, like yours, is towing the line. Mine is, I would say, even a little more paranoid than I am. But I don't think that, I think that's honestly, from what I'm hearing, the exception more than the rule. I think most couples are on the same page. They've been, laid off or paused in their work, or they can't work. And, in my mind, there are only so many things we can control. We can't control the fact that we can't work if we can't, right? We can't control even that we're not going to get a salary this week, potentially. We can pursue unemployment. We can pursue the new benefits that are coming out. There are proactive things we can do, but there's only so much we can control. And we have to focus on what we can control. And what we can control is our own state of mind and our connection with other people. And so what I like to do is really focus on, all right, there's all this other crazy crap going on, and there's craziness all around us, and the future is really uncertain. But the only thing that is truly real, that we know for sure is real, is right here, right now. So what are we going to do today to make this day feel good in some way? What are we going to do along the lines of self-care by ourselves and for each other? What projects can we take on to build a better connection? Like, for instance, I have a free program on my website called 7 Days to Better Sex. And a lot of couples, have said to me, I want to do this, but like, can we take 7 weeks doing it since we're both so busy? Like, now you got 7 days.
Yeah, true.
And it's not all day, every day, believe me. I mean, it could be, but it's not that time consuming, right? But do something like that.
Can we have sex with our partners who are foraging? Poor Kevin. It's been so long.
Yeah, I still do. But I also don't have immunocompromised
people in their house.
People in my house.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the tricky thing. But if you really are not coming within 6 feet of them, I still hug and kiss my husband and have sex with him. Yeah. And if you don't have immunosuppressed people and you aren't going out, then absolutely you can. I mean, in your case, you guys could maybe go in separate rooms and have a little virtual nookie.
Poor Steven's in the booth, horrified right now. He's like listening about his parents right now.
You could get, I'm going to send you my wireless remote control vibrating underpants.
Oh my God. I think you gave me these like 20 years ago. Okay, and I don't know what happened to them.
So it works 14 feet apart.
Stop.
At least.
Stop.
So you have the vibrator in your underwear and he has the remote control. And he can zap you without even touching you. See, you can get creative.
Dead.
That's part of the fun. And if you can touch each other, you don't have someone immunosuppressed in the house while one of you is the forager, then there are all sorts of things you can try. There are new, try a new toy, try a new lubricant, go to the shop on my website. Have I sent you my all organic arousing lubricant yet?
No,
I send you a care package. Clorox it up. But I'm going to send you a care package to use during this time.
Okay. I'm in. I guess it's interesting because, we both have Hashimoto's too, which is an autoimmune situation. And so I'm so nervous to get him. I'm just nervous to lose all of them, truthfully, yes, right? I'm nervous.
We worry about getting them sick.
It's them. And then of course, lastly, I think, oh shit, I have asthma as well. Yeah. This could be really a brutal way to go. And I'm like, how do I tell Kevin to just slip me a pill and call it a day if like this happens and I'm in pain? Cause I just can't, there's just no way.
Where our minds will go, right?
Yeah, but my biggest thing is I've said this before in the show. I've spent my entire life trying to keep my parents healthy and alive, and that is the scariest thing about this is how quickly it gets people. Yeah. And my mom has a caretaker that comes in and helps in the mornings, and that has been a struggle too because every day I'm like, God, am I pushing it? Am I pushing it? But I can't do it.
No.
Right? So the only person that's with her 24/7 is my dad. And my dad can't do it 24/7 because he was losing his mind. And that's why I brought in the caretaker. So that's
the cost benefit you have to do, and once again, there's only so much you can control, right?
Yeah.
And a huge part of your immunity and your health, a huge part is your emotional state, right?
Yeah.
And so if your father, for instance, is taxed out and tapped out, his diabetes is going to get worse.
Totally.
His immune system is going to crash. His cortisol levels are going to go up. And so are yours.
Yeah.
This is a lot. And so this is what I mean by this AFGE, being in this high intensity, everything magnified situation is requiring that we kind of really look, I would challenge you. I got to say, when we last were together, my dad was sick and dying and has since, as passed away. And he was my last remaining, parent or even older relative. Another one died not long after him. And so I am lucky enough in that way that I'm not worried, because I would be, I
Yeah.
would be really worried right now about them. And especially in my case, being far away from them. And I know a lot of people feel that way. But at the same time, I would challenge you. Like, it makes my heart hurt to hear you say that your entire life, your focus has been on propping your parents' health up, right? Like, I know that that's your role in your family in many ways, and that's not your only role in life. But like, a time like this is going to really require that you look at that role. And I'm not suggesting that you leave them stranded. And obviously, this is a time more than ever that you want to make sure they're healthy and that you're supporting them. But at the same time, I know how much this takes from your psyche and your life on a daily basis during the best of times. And maybe an experience like this and going through this where it's so intense and so heavy and so in your face might be, says the optimist, just the AFGE you need to maybe make some changes coming out of this in terms of your identity as, I would say you're probably half Maria Menounos, as the rest of us know it, inside your head, and half of your identity is the role you play with your parents.
Yeah, that would be fair.
And that's a huge amount of energy that you are expending mentally and physically every single day, your whole life.
Yeah.
And so my challenge to you, my love, would be just to play around. As we can't go outside, this is the time to go inside and really maybe challenge those inside ourselves. I don't mean blow up those relationships, but challenge the relationships. Because part of the purpose, I think, on a higher purpose of the whole world turning upside down is that it shakes things up enough that we can look at those things that we never questioned before in our lives and in our relationships and maybe question them. We're forced to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's difficult because at the same time, one of my biggest revelations after surgery and going through, 2 brain tumors in this house and all of that was that the most important thing in our lives is our health and our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the same time, are my priorities really out of place when that's really what I'm focusing on? I did start this app, this hourly tracker, to see how much time I do spend on their care, because I think there is a dysfunction inside of me that thinks I don't do enough.
Uh-huh.
And so I know that, and that's why I started tracking, and holy shit. I have to look at the accumulation and what it actually is, but it's constant and I can't even keep up. I can't even input. It takes 1 second to input. I can't even input it.
Right, because it's so much. That's what I'm telling you. And I'm not saying that your family and your health shouldn't be the most important thing. It's about how much of it you personally, not even personally physically, but personally, energetically, and emotionally take responsibility for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are a lot of caretakers out there, and a lot of caretakers who don't have the means to hire someone to help them, right? And so how do they release themselves? How would you release yourself, especially in this time where people are quarantined? And, that seems to be your biggest role right now. How do you help them get boundaries?
Well, I could say the same thing that I know health, if you're a physical caretaker, for loved ones, it's the same as having, in many ways, as having a young child, right? You can't control them. What you were describing about your mom and getting up, like, that's exactly what I went through with my dad. And I would get so furious at him.
Yeah.
Which defeats the purpose.
Then you feel guilty, and then you're like, why am I spending any time being like this when I know that a day before I'm crying because I'm thinking this could happen at any minute. I need to spend the most amazing time with them now. And it's this roller coaster. Yeah.
And I think the most important thing, and I can't say this enough, and I know it's kind of a cliche, but it is 100% true, is your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
You have to You are no good to anyone if you get burnt out, sick, depressed, and guarantee that's going to happen if you are not investing some time every single day in self-care and spending some time doing something that nourishes you emotionally.
That's what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Grounding yourself, exercising, you have to take, because it's like, you're a love warrior. Like, it's a battle we're doing right now. Like, it is serious. It requires serious energy and serious effort when you have someone at home who's sick or really needy. And that's true during the best of times, but certainly during times like this. And it's mandatory. You are not doing yourself or the person you care for any favors if I think women especially, and I know this is true for you because I know you well enough at this point to know that, there's this, and this was true for me for many, until I became a recovering type A, but
I love that.
but that there is a badge of honor in martyrdom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there is emotional wealth in some case. It feels like it gained from sacrificing ourselves emotionally to that point, and sometimes physically. But I just would challenge that, because
Yeah.
I think each of us are given this gorgeous life to certainly serve others, but not just those. Like, I would say, during another time, not during this time, but when this is over, that if you pulled back a little bit, you would be surprised at how much they step up.
I know. And I've done it. I've
Yeah.
gone through my intervals where I pull back and oh my God, I get so happy.
Yeah.
Life gets so much more lighter.
How much more energy do you have to
Yeah.
invest in all the other beautiful things and ways that you serve our world?
Yeah. Because Kevin says it all the time to me. He's like, Maria, the world will still go round. And
Yes.
so I do know that, and I am aware of that for sure. And I think that I made the decision that once we get through this, that, and plus her tumor's gone now, so I can send her back home
Yes.
again and they can go live their life. And, I can take care of the things I have to take care
Yes.
of. But, I wonder with the caretaker situation, there's so many people out there who probably feel like me right now who are
Yes.
confused. I had a very long talk with my dad about it yesterday because, this is the month where things are going to get real and in terms of the spread of this virus.
Right.
And I wonder, should you have second thoughts if you truly need that help? And I do believe that we truly need that help. My mom can't do anything on her own. And there are things that she needs help with. And so, to the way I've navigated it is I pray every day and I bubble everyone.
Yeah, I do the same
I
thing.
put them in a bubble to protect them. So I protect the caretaker and then I protect her family. And, I pray that God is going to protect my mom.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do. She called in sick yesterday. She called in sick today. So then we had to start wondering, well, does she have it?
Yeah.
And the things that she touched, and we're cleaning everything. And then we're realizing, okay, we all touched everything that she touched, even though we keep cleaning constantly anyway. These are the fears that other people are probably having too.
Well, the nice thing is that there's so many, I'm not nice, I shouldn't say that, but the flip side is that there's so many people looking for work right now. Now, in the case of this caretaker who's sick, but let's even put aside that she's sick, she has a family at home, so it's not like she can do this. But there are probably many people who could move into your house, and just quarantine with you right now.
Yeah.
And would be very, very who are unemployed caretakers or medical professionals who aren't needed in the hospitals right now. But even just for the acts of daily living, since you guys are home, you don't even need someone necessarily with medical training. You just need someone who can help and supervise and support her. And so like you said, you're lucky enough to afford this. If I were you, I would be finding someone who could move into the house who make sure they have, interview them for anyone they've been around that's been sick, and to what degree they've been quarantining themselves. Have they been participating in this self social distancing or stay at home order we have in LA, and bring them into the house and don't have them go back and forth as things get worse. That's what I would do if I were you, and I could, and you have the means to pay for that, and you're helping another family while you're doing that. So if either your caretaker isn't really sick and has someone at home who can be with the kids during the next 2 to 4 weeks, or you have to find someone else. I don't think, if we can help it, we want you guys doing this alone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough predicament, because you're like, oh God. But what else? I mean, back on the relationships, people who live in 1-bedroom apartments.
It's so hard.
How do you navigate the issues there if you're upset with each other? It's very apparent.
Yeah.
And also, how do you get alone time?
You have to get alone time, and you have to get really creative. I was talking to a couple yesterday who lives in a really small place, and I had them hang blanket from the ceiling.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding, to create a little separate space for themselves. I mean, it reminds me when I was living in Chicago, and my children were really young, and I had no space of my own because they had taken over all the common areas, and I was like overrun by testosterone because they're all boys. And I got one of those little princess tents that hang from the ceiling. Have you ever, those little canopies?
Uh-huh.
I said to them, this is my red tent. When mommy goes in here, like, I'm invisible. No one can come in. And I would literally like go and cower and hide in my little princess tent just to have like my own space.
Your own little fort.
Where I could meditate and relax. And I think this is a time where, once again, we want to schedule it, even if it's just the two of you and you don't have kids to schedule your day. Keeping to a routine is good for our bodies. It's good for our internal clocks. It's good for our mental health. So make a schedule, shift one of you from the bedroom to the living room back and forth, at least an hour or two a day where you are separated. Maybe go take a bath or a long shower or whatever it is that you need to do to separate. Even hanging a blanket from the ceiling where you just are like in there with your earphones in and in a different universe for a little bit, create some degree of separation. Not only when you're arguing, but just in general.
Yeah.
I think we need that.
And so when you have a big argument, and you're not going to be able to leave and go to the bar or leave and go see a friend or whatever.
I hate it when people leave in an argument.
Yeah. So now
getting violent, obviously, which is a whole other conversation. But what I would say is you need to create, and I'm actually I'm making a video, I'm going to put it out this weekend on how to fight to love, not just to win, because this is a time where couples who in the past would use that, would either one of them would leave and then they would just forget it and never like resolve the issue or whatever. Now you're stuck together and those issues need to be resolved. And so, yes, if things are really heated, or like I like to say, if one of you is in persona and the clue is that you're convinced you're right? So if one or both of you is absolutely convinced you're right, then, which is almost always, right?
Yep.
Then you have to like raise the white flag and say, we are taking a 30-minute hiatus. You go behind the blanket or I'll go in the bedroom or whatever. And then we're both going to ground ourselves and come back and talk about this. And then when you come back, really the key is you want to focus on how you are feeling, not how that other person made you feel, how you are feeling and what you really want, what you would love in the positive, right? So I am feeling scared and sad. I have pain in my chest and in my stomach because I have this story that when you go out unnecessarily, you're bringing this back in. Or when you told your mother she should come over today, you're putting us at risk, or whatever it is, right? And then you say, so that's how you're feeling and the story, because it's only your story. You're not saying it's the truth. And then what you want, which is, and what I would really love is to feel like it would help me so much to feel some control over who's coming to the house. And so for you to ask me first, for you to take my feelings into consideration about, even if you think it's silly and overkill, would mean the world to me. Right? And then when they do that, you reward them with positive feedback, physical affection, whatever it is. You know, it's the same thing as I was talking about with kids. It's that positive psychology, but you want it to, the place where I see relationships go really south is when you stay stuck in that place where you're trying to resolve a conflict when both of you are in that, not even in your bodies anymore. And when you are pointing the finger of blame at the other person, rather than taking responsibility for how you're feeling and what you really want at this moment.
Got it. What, since you're taking sessions with clients right now via Skype or Zoom or whatever, what is the biggest thing that you're hearing from couples?
I think it's really not, it's all those things, and it makes me happy, weirdly enough, but it's all those things that we, small and large, that we just ignored before because we didn't want to deal with it. Like I had a woman the other day call into my radio show, actually. She wasn't a client, but she has been dating this guy for a year, really serious. And they were going to move in, but now during this crisis have moved in. And she was appalled to discover that he does nothing all day. Even when he's working, he does a little work, but he doesn't get off the couch all day long, doesn't do anything, and then invites her to watch a show with him and falls asleep. And before, she was working and she didn't see that. And, so we're seeing things about our partners, I also think it's really interesting, and I've been hearing this from a couple of my clients. In one case, a newer client, an infidelity has been discovered. Why? Not that person has been cheating for some time, but now can't, right? Because they're stuck at home with their partner, and now it's all coming out. Now they're going to need some help rebuilding trust and recovering, after the infidelity. But it's also a blessing in disguise, because she had no idea.
Wow.
And there was something big going on and missing in the relationship that was just being glossed over and ignored while everybody was busy doing everything else.
I'd like to jump in real quick. What about if somebody was about to break up with somebody and now they're stuck together? Like what? What if it was already on the rocks?
Yeah.
And now you're stuck with them?
Yeah. Well, this is a time, I think, on all counts, to keep the peace as much as possible while potentially working on things. So I think, and I find this to be, I haven't come across any clients necessarily in the situation you're describing at present, although I'm sure there are many out there. But what I can tell you is that very often when you've decided to break up with someone, you're just going to go and make the same mistake the next time around. And you're blaming whatever the problems are on this relationship when really the problem is inside you, and something going on with you or your communication or the way you operate in relationships. And then often people have to make that same mistake again and again and again before they come to someone like me. So use this time, assuming you're safe, right, and not in, God forbid, a violent situation. Use this time to keep the peace and really do your internal work, and maybe even some couples therapy that you might not have invested in before because you were ready to just walk out the door and go find someone else. Now you're going to be stuck together, because whatever happens, even if you end up breaking up after this, whatever you learn as you work on your relationship together is only going to serve you later, whether you end up with that person or not. So it's never wasted to get that support.
I wonder, in relationships, it must be the same thing as, I've been doing so much work in these last few years, and when you keep seeing a pattern repeat, it's because of something you haven't dealt with. So I guess it would be the same thing in relationships. If you're somebody who keeps having the same thing happen, then maybe this is the time to pause and acknowledge that and figure it out with somebody.
Absolutely. That's totally true in relationships. You keep ending up with players, or people who cheat on you, or people who don't show up for you, or people who aren't honest, or people who say they're committed but aren't really committed, or people who abandon you. You see the pattern. Once it happens, if you're willing to. After the first time, okay, fluke. Second time, now we're on to something. If it happens 2 or more times, now we're working toward a pattern. And that's not about bad luck at that point. That's about who we're attracted to and who we're attracting in because of something going on inside ourselves.
Yeah, that is actually, I have to ask that because I have so many single friends, and I have friends who are like, I'm never going to find anybody. There are no good guys left, and they can't keep a relationship. It's like, they keep finding these guys who are emotionally unavailable or completely unavailable and just hookups. And so if this is a pattern that keeps repeating in your life, what does that say about you?
It means almost always that if I go into it with them and get them to that place, and I love to do this, it's a form of somatic therapy. Like I would take that person, I would say, okay, let's go to the last person that left you or abandoned you and think about him abandoning you. And now where do you feel that in your body? And get them to blow that feeling up even more, go all the way into it and really give it a color and a texture and everything else. And then I say, okay, now without thinking, when was the earliest memory you have of feeling this way? And almost always it goes back to, well, when I watched my dad leave us, when I was 4 years old, or when my mom went into treatment and never came back, or, or when my mother used to get wasted and I would be taking care of my little brother or sister. It all goes back to those earlier life abandonments that they're not even aware of, but that we're repeatedly playing out in unconscious ways. So that's why I say, if you're in a pattern like this, then the person you do not want to keep dating after the first date is that person who you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've known him or her all my life. I have butterflies. They're the perfect, I just feel so familiar. No, that is a warning signal in your case that you are fulfilling that same pattern. Because remember, I've come on your show before about quantum love. I mean, This is really what quantum love is about. We are creating our own realities with our unconscious beliefs and feelings about love and about ourselves. And so even just the statement and belief that there are no good guys out there, I guarantee you there will be no good guys out there for you, because that's the reality you're creating, right? But even deeper than that, if you are someone who doesn't really feel worthy, that little girl or little boy in you is still not convinced, because they adopted this belief when they were 4 or 5, 7 years old, that it's like all children do, that if I were more of something or less of something, then dad wouldn't leave or mom wouldn't drink or whatever that is. That's still running the show in our love life. So for your girlfriends, that's where their work is to go back to find the core of those worthiness killing stories they adopted and challenge them and release them.
Wow. I would love to do an episode with my girlfriends and you.
Wouldn't that be fun? Let's do it.
It would be
I'll
amazing.
take them in there
Because none of them want to hear anything. Trust me. They're like, you just got lucky with Kevin. I'm like, no, I didn't just get lucky with Kevin. I saw Kevin and he was bankrupt and he was driving a shit ass van, and you never would have said yes to Kevin. Ever in a million years, you would have never seen the potential in him and who he was in his heart, because you want all of these things.
Yeah.
And that is what gets people into trouble, I think.
None of that matters. What matters, and this is what I talk about in Quantum Love, is how you want to feel in love. It's really about not the qualities that person has or their bank accounts or even their physical characteristics. It is about how do you want to feel in love. Once you have that love that you really desire, how would you feel day in, day out? If you were in that relationship. And that's the place you want to start from and date from.
Oh my God, I just realized something about myself. Holy shit. So, I was thinking about early on how I always thought I needed, when I first met Kevin, I was like, oh my God, he's a caretaker, done. And it was like the deal was sealed. The second I knew that he had taken massage therapy classes to heal his dad of the pain of the cancer, and that he had left his career, and gone home to take care of him, I was like, oh my God, that's a solid guy. That's what I want. But I was like, why at 19 was I so concerned with having a caretaker? Well,
Because
duh.
you've been a caretaker your whole freaking life.
And P.S., I watched my mom be my dad's caretaker her whole life. She devoted her entire life to keeping him alive, right? I was her partner in crime
Yep.
at some point, right? When I was old enough. And so, wow, what a little vicious cycle we've created.
Isn't that cute? You see how we do that? Thankfully, in your case, it was relatively, positive, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's like 41 years right there, like just to figure that out. Well, I can't wait to wrap that around even deeper in my head because I've been asking myself that question for years. Like, why did I at 19 think I needed a caretaker? And I'm like, God, I must have in my gut known what was coming down the pike in life, right? I must have known there was going to be some issue where I was going to need caretaking, and maybe I still did.
Or I would even challenge to say that you didn't, as much as you love her, did not want to be your mother.
Totally. No. Totally 100%.
And so if you were with a caretaker, you were not going to have to be necessarily his caretaker.
Yeah.
And that was like me in my first marriage. Didn't work out so well, but I was convinced I didn't want to be my mother with no power in the relationship and no control. I was going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
So I ended up marrying a guy that I could completely, or thought I could completely control. I made all the decisions, because I was trying to counter being her, and often we'll go in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Yeah, you watch somebody give up their power so much, you're like, why would I do that? And I remember them saying like,
the opposite.
yeah,
Right?
I was like,
I'll
no,
never be like that.
my parents used to say, well, you're going to marry a nice Greek boy. I'm like, no, Greek boys make you into slaves. No, thanks. Like, cause I watch like the in-laws would say, oh, if you marry my son, they, they're going to do the white glove test in your house to make sure you keep a clean house and all this crazy shit. I'm like, you people are nuts. I'm like, that is not going to be me. So
you did the opposite. Yes.
Oh my God. So crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing what it's the same way we parent. We parent the way we wish we had been parented.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
And it's probably too extreme, right? Everything is the extreme because we want to go the opposite. And then probably throughout life, we have to try to find our way back to the balance.
Yeah. And that's why, it's so important to be aware of what those stories are and what, because what you would have said if I said to you back then, how do you want to feel? You want to feel cared for, right? In love, you want to feel like
protected.
You're with a partner who's protected and caring for you as much or more than you're caring for him, right? And so that was a big part of your love map. But that's why it's so important to kind of challenge those beliefs and stories, and why I always tell parents, it's not what you say, it's what you do. It's the relationship you model for your children. They pick up everything, whether you recognize it or not. And when I work with adults and I'm taking their history, I'll say, what was so much information is in that one question. What was your sense of your parents' relationship growing up, spoken and unspoken? Like, what was it like? And they'll give you a whole picture of what it was like. And their parents probably think they had no clue, you know?
But then it's so overwhelming because what is the perfect scenario, right? There is no perfect relationship. No, Kevin and I aren't perfect by any means.
No, it's not supposed to be perfect. I think we're all here to learn to love and be loved better. And whatever those growth edges in our relationship are, in many ways, is the reason we chose that relationship. We unconsciously knew that person was going to challenge us or push us, or they had qualities and characteristics that we admired and wished we had, but now drive us crazy because we can stay in our comfortable little place.
Yeah.
Right. But it's all about, when we're having a relationship with someone else, whoever it is, a really dear friend, a partner, a child, you are actually having a relationship with yourself through that other person. That's really what it's always about.
Explain that.
I mean, like your relationship with Kevin, right? I could have a relationship with him and have same person, he's the same person, and have a totally different experience of him than you will.
Yeah.
And it is because of what he's triggering in me. The beliefs about myself and about life and about my day-to-day life that he's confirming or challenging, the triggers in me that he's touching or not touching, right? It's always me reacting to him, you reacting to him. So you are having a relationship with him, but really it's about you. And he's just the
Wow.
catalyst.
Wow. Wow. That also speaks to like a bigger thing where why you can't see something in someone that someone else sees.
Yeah.
Right? So I saw this horrific documentary the other day, The Trial of Gabriel Fernandez. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend it if it wasn't so brutal to get through, but it is important to watch. And so, you know, there are people who would get on the stand in this certain, you know, court proceeding and say, I did not have that experience with this person.
Right.
This person who murdered a child, he was amazing. He was an angel to me. And so I guess like in a bigger picture, it speaks to why we can have different experiences with people. And sometimes like someone will ask me, what did you think of that person? I said, well, they were not kind to me, but maybe you'll have a different experience. And that's always been my line generally, because I innately knew that that person was jealous or had an issue.
Was reacting to something in you.
Yeah, but I wasn't explaining it like that, and I didn't understand the whole mechanism behind it, but I knew that they were insecure with me, but maybe they're not going to be insecure with you. Maybe.
Right.
So wow.
And that's why I always say, like, I don't want to be friends or close to anyone truly in partnerships of life or work who isn't friends with their own shadow, right? Who doesn't know that what I'm saying, because otherwise they're like a loose cannon, you know, reacting and not really understanding why they're reacting, or they're insecure, not aware of their insecure, like that person who's unkind out of their own insecurity. And so I think this is all of this is coming up for us now.
Yeah.
This is the stuck at home, staring at the walls and each other. It's all going to come to the surface to be healed, to be cleared, to be transmuted to more positive energy. And it's all going to be in service when we get out of here. But in the meantime, you know, it's about staying safe, doing your work, and recognizing that it's time to stop sticking your head in the sand and really address with loving intention those things that aren't working in your life and in your relationship, and maybe start visioning into a new future.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Laura, what are your 3 top tips right now for people who are quarantined with their partners and their kids?
Make a schedule that includes solo time, create solo space, even if it means hanging a blanket from the ceiling or a play tent from the ceiling, and make time for some form of intimacy. So try that 7 Days to Better Sex program, try a new toy, try a new position, do virtuals, that like stay connected. And I'll add one more, keep feeding your own soul, because it all starts with us, you know.
Best way to do it? Best way to feed your soul?
To do something that feels truly self-nurturing every day for at least 30 minutes, whether it's working out, meditating, painting, learning something new, whatever it is that brings you joy and peace and flow, where you kind of lose time for a minute. We all need that to recharge.
And is there one way or one thing you're doing to get better every day right now?
Oh yeah, I've been doing a lot. I've been painting. I even am taking some painting classes online, which I've never done before.
Wow.
I'm working on a proposal for my next book, which I didn't even know I had in me. I am spending a lot of time, sometimes by force, with my kids, and you know, forcing them, not me, and you know, making time to play every day. Dancing. I've been doing a lot of dancing.
In the house?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
How fun. I love you. I love our conversations. I learned so much today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and to help us.
I love you back. I can't wait to see you in person when on the other side of this.
Thank you. Well, and send us the information on all of the different programs that you were suggesting. The 7 Days to Better Sex. We'll put it all in the summary link for everybody.
I will, but just go to drlauraberman.com. It's all there, but I'll send you all the links.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Bye. Stay safe.
Oh man, that was amazing. Did you find that as amazing as I thought it was?
It's kind of interesting. It's just such a different perspective that I haven't thought about.
Right?
Because I'm lonely guy at the apartment, so like I haven't really thought about what people in relationships are going through at this moment. Like most of the people I'm talking to are just bored out of their minds, but I can't imagine being bored out of your mind and also have to play with the dynamic of children or play with the dynamic of having a fight with your significant other and have like imagine being trapped in a 1-bedroom apartment or even like a studio apartment with your significant other and be in a fight.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
Horrible. Yeah.
I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. But see, and I think I also think the dynamics of why you're having the same pitfalls. Like I think it's such a cool time to really go inward and really think about every area of your life and what patterns you keep seeing repeated and realize that that is what you need to work on and not hope that the circumstances outside of you change, right?
Yeah.
Because it's within you. And I just think that's so cool. I learned so much. I was like taking notes everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, she's pretty cool.
Yeah.
She knows what she's talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's amazing. Well, that was really fun. I fed my soul.
I'm still just kind of like processing everything. I'm wondering, like, have you experienced a lot of those things with Kevin right now? Like, have you guys gotten any fights since the quarantine that have been to the point where you've had to like, okay, now let's sit down and figure out a game plan? Did you and him
No.
come up with a game plan
No.
outside of Litsa and Kostas to figure out what are you going to do?
No, I feel like I said, we work together a lot. So we've already got the same kind of dynamics and roles figured out. The only new thing is that we don't leave the house and he forages. And when my mom had to go to her doctor's appointments, he took her so that we can stay consistent with the same human that goes out. And so, yeah, I mean, he's getting very lonely. I'm like, stay away.
It was very
uncomfortable.
No, there was a lot of times I could have made a crass joke in this
Yeah,
episode.
I'm glad you didn't. But yeah, like, you know, yesterday you guys were working outside and you're 6 feet away tables. And at one point I saw him a little too close to you. And I'm like, last night he's like, can I get a hug? I'm like, you broke the rules.
Oh my God.
You got too close. And no. And so anyway.
I wonder if sex toy sales have gone up
Well, for
tremendously
sure they have.
over this thing. Yeah.
For sure.
For couples
sure.
and for singles, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like exercise equipment. You
Yeah.
can't find exercise equipment right now.
I'm like so tempted to just buy one of those Peloton treadmills.
I don't know if you can.
Really?
I don't know.
I think that's like so expensive that people wouldn't
Maybe.
buy it out of it.
Yeah, maybe not. Anyhow, great time with Dr. Laura. She's amazing. And I think if you don't have anything to share, I will let everyone know that we are trying to migrate over to Patreon. So if you would do us a favor and join us over there at any level, obviously, we know times are tough, but we are a little limited over here with what we can do. And I want to be able to play some amazing clips for you guys in the coming weeks over there. And so join us. The link is in the summary. You can just click on it. And in the meantime, we're here on YouTube and on Facebook live. And we will also be putting our videos on Instagram live as well. And we have some amazing guests coming up. So please stay tuned, share this with your friends, let them know that we have a good positive space for you to join us and to, air out stuff. And you can chat with us through the chat and let us know what you're thinking, any questions you have, any things that you're worried about that you want us to investigate and look into and find one of my amazing experts and friends to come on and help us with. In the meantime, You good, Stephen?
I'm good.
Okay. You can stay up to date with Dr. Laura at drlauraberman.com. You can follow us at Maria Menounos, at Dr. Laura Berman, at Stephen Lemieux Photo. Remember, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.